joining us for the webinar on enabling an organization to be a talent magnet in partnership with Indeed. I am Akshaya from People Matters, and before speaking about today's agenda, let me give you a brief about the topic. Myths have been thrashed about how traditional recruiting models function. In a study done by Indeed, it has been revealed that the widely held belief that 80% of candidates are passive while only 20% are active is now folklore. This webinar will help uncover some compelling insights about why and how people search for jobs today, that is the 78% of the pool that looks at jobs daily. Key outcomes from the webinar. What is the psychology that inspires people to make a career change? What are the actions employed people take to find their next job? 5 secrets to future-proof the talent attraction strategy. Let me now introduce to you the speaker for this webinar. We have the privilege of having with us Sashi Kumar, India Head, Indeed. Sashi Kumar is the India Head for the Indeed.com, the world's #1 job search engine. A seasoned leader with over 14 years of experience, Sashi has handled diverse portfolios including new product evangelization, enterprise sales management, and international sales. He specializes in the internet industry, recruitment solutions, and HR automation. Sashi's in-depth knowledge and vast experience in the Indian recruitment industry has made him a go-to person when it comes to understanding how companies can tailor the recruitment strategy and ensure success in the very competitive Indian talent search market. Our partner for today's webinar is Indeed. Indeed is the world's largest job search engine, and it is the #1 source of external hires for thousands of companies. More than 180 million people each month search for jobs, post resumes, and research companies on Indeed. We have saved time for you to ask your questions at the end of the webinar. For those attending the live webinar, you can submit questions at any time during the presentation through the Q&A section. We will try to respond to as many questions as possible. We have a very exciting agenda for the webinar today, so without any further delay, I'm going to hand over the webinar microphone to Sashi. Over to you, Sashi.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the science of talent attraction, or understanding what makes people think. As the head of sales at Indeed, I'm opportunity to talk to leaders in the industry like yourself, talk through some of Indeed's tips, tricks, strategies, and best practices. And today I'm going to share some insights on how candidates are making decisions in today's labor market, what actions people are taking to find their next job, and how you can leverage this information. And thinking about why do we recruit? Why do we do what we do? The next slide. The first is recruiting really changes people's lives. Think about the people that have been hired today or placed this year, or even the ones we don't hire. They're going to impact millions of lives this year. But more importantly, recruiting is the #1 source of this impact. And many famous people have spoken about this. The secret of our success is that we've gone to exceptional lengths to hire the best people in the world. Steve Jobs at Apple. Our people are our greatest asset, and we constantly try to retain high-quality talent. Jesse Engelberg at Deloitte. Next slide. There is nothing more important for a business than hiring the right team. Richard Branson. And because of next slide, please. And because of that responsibility on us, the talent leaders and talent professionals is immense. Globally, Indeed receives 200 million visitors each month. Our customers and the people in this room will shape the lives of millions of hires this year. Next slide, please. I'm going to divide our presentation today in 3 parts: sociology of job search, psychology of job search, and finally, what lessons can we take from them and how do we implement them in making our hiring successful. Next slide. To get the data for this presentation, Indeed conducted a broad global candidate is very different from recruiting a passive candidate. Next slide. When we exercised this poll, we found that 78% of people are looking for jobs today, and 58% of opportunities at least once a month. Which actually tells me that this notion that 80% of job seekers are active and just 20% are passive actually true in the reverse. Next slide. Now when we dig into these numbers a bit further, it turns out that the younger and more educated you are, the more likely you are to be actively looking for a job. Next slide please. Needless to say, since we're looking at the full labor force, the vast majority of people being surveyed are currently employed. Next slide. We also looked at who are the people who are not actively looking at jobs. The people who are happy where they are, or a complete, who just recently changed jobs, or have their own businesses, or are close to their retirement. When you look at the people that were hired last year, there's some really interesting data that's coming up. Truly passive candidates are rarer than we may think they are. Most new hires look for jobs again within 6 months, and this is especially true who were hired in the last year. A good measure of quality, since if they were not good quality, they wouldn't be hired. Only 9% said that they were not actively looking for jobs when they landed their job. So which means that this 80-20 is actually closer to 90-10 in reverse. And what's really interesting was this is consistent across the globe and also consistent across age, salary, and experience brackets. So what is this? 91% of people who were hired last year, 6 months preceding the job change, were actually actively looking for jobs. They found their jobs online, either through a job board or some other online resource, and a small percentage actually asked people or used references or contacted family. Now, as we talk about the way people are actively looking, I think we always hear candidates that the candidates are coming to us via mobile. On Indeed, 54% of all our traffic comes from a mobile device. But what I find interesting is that not just they're coming to us via mobile, but candidates expect us to go to them via mobile. So what does this mean? Next slide please. A large percentage of people subscribe to job alerts. Now a job alert can be different things to different companies. But indeed, a job alert means a what and a where. So it could be a software engineer in Bangalore, financial analyst in Mumbai, or a marketing manager in Delhi. It could be a company, a skill, or a job. So what does it have to do with a mobile? So the candidates will be smart when they sign up for a job alert. They use the first market corporate accounts. They're sitting in their computers, disillusioned with their job. They're not It's really remarkable. What we found that once people change jobs, their behavior rarely changes. 65% of the candidates who are hired came back to Indeed within 91 days of being hired. So this isn't really surprising. It's typical consumerist behavior. Many people have bought cars or houses recently are back online looking at listings just to make sure that they've got a good deal. So to recap, truly passive candidates are less than you think. Younger, highly educated candidates are more likely to be active. Online job seeker search is the #1 activity for people who get hired. Job search is never ending. Most new hires look for jobs within 91 days of having found a new one. So that's the first section, the sociology of job search. With that, I want to jump into our second section, the psychology of job search. And in the psychology of job search, we are going to talk about the decision-making process, or specifically the career decision-making process. Next slide. And that is that candidates must make at least 7 major decisions before becoming an employee with your company. Next slide. So let's walk through those right now. The first thing they need to do is consider a change. Next, when you consider your company and every activity in your recruitment process. 6, they need to accept the offer. And finally, they need to show up for work on the first day. A lot of people laugh at this point, but almost everyone in recruitment has stories of people who never showed up. Next slide, please. As we dive a little bit deeper into the process, the first step in considering a change is by far the hardest for people to make. We don't like change. Change is new. We don't like new, so we resist it. Let's take a closer look at why that this happens through some observations that we made during our research. Next slide. The first research observation was that making career decisions are extremely stressful. In fact, career decisions are some of the most stressful decisions we'll ever make in our life. Next slide. After all these family and career decisions, career is the biggest stress. With the research into this, I would like to share with you the home and raised stress scale. This is a very famous stress scale, and it ranks stress of different life events. The absolute scale of 0 to 100. On the bottom of the scale, we see the various life-related stress events, and above that, the line of career-related events. What's really interesting is that career events really span the whole lifetime. A pregnancy is almost as stressful as retiring. Getting married is only slightly more stressful than losing a job. The second research observation that we made is that most people by nature are resistant to career change. Next slide. Because most people don't like change. Change requires us to project into the future and imagine potential benefits and risks. And as it turns out, we're not very good at this. The next slide. Overestimate the risks and the probability of failure by underestimating the benefits that will come from this change. I love this quote from the career psychologist. The way of the benefits is in 2 areas. First, overestimate the probability of failure in a new direction because of the negative bias. Second, we underestimate the benefits of change because we fail to imagine or visualize the results of the change in much detail. Next slide, please. And Maslow, who many of you may be familiar with, the famous psychologist who created the hierarchy of needs, and a lot of his research focused on how our brains are wired for survival and not fulfillment. The career psychologist was quoted as saying Maslow, our brain evolved to anticipate and predict the worst, and we try to eliminate this risk. That's why our cognitive functions and emotions evolved too. And that's why we are 3 to 5 times more sensitive to risk than possible. And that leads us directly into our third observation. Career changes are major life changes, and I can't reiterate this enough. That change takes a lot of work. Next slide. So when we think about bringing these research observations together, it really shows that the forces against career change are incredibly strong. There's high stress, it's hard work. We overestimate the potential of failure while underestimating the potential benefits. Next slide. But let's hold on for a moment, because it raises a question. People change all the time. They buy new houses, they buy new cars, they move on, they travel, they get married. So what is it that leads employed people to change jobs? Next slide, please. We went back to our survey data, and you can see some of these results on the left about when people consider change. On the right, we can see points I mentioned, balancing out and keeping people from making change. The summary, though, is that there are 2 things that lead people to cross the psychological chasm. Next slide. They are either inspired by new opportunity, position, or a company, and the second is that they're disillusioned with their current role or work. Next slide. So now the data was from a Harris poll. So to even it out, we went back to our polling company, asked them to ask employers, who would you prefer to hire, the active or the passive candidate? And 9 out of 10 professionals prefer the active candidate. And that makes sense because active candidates have already done most of the psychological legwork in preparing themselves for change. So if we go back to the decision-making process, next slide, and look at our 7 steps. An active candidate has already considered change, they'll consider your company, they'll consider a position in your company, and they'll apply it. Which means steps 5 through 7 data here. What I find really interesting is remember that Maslow says our brains are wired for survival over fulfillment. And what we see on the top here, good pay, good location, flexible hours, these are the survival ones. While at the bottom, see a lot of fulfillment ones. Good fit for my family, company mission, advancement, etc. And when we look at who chooses meaningful work, it shows that those at the start or end of their career are more likely to choose meaningful work. Next slide. Now, research observation 4. People feel better about decisions that they fully control. Next slide. So now when it comes to major purchases, people feel much better if they do the research themselves and make an informed decision than if they are sold to. Think about the process of buying a house or a car or even a phone. Most people will spend time comparing the market, weighing up their needs and wants, rather than simply walking into a builder's office or a car showroom to make that purchase. So when we ask our candidates in our Harris poll, their impact or how they would like to be approached when they are looking for a job change, most people said they would like to be in control. And one question we asked was, when deciding whether or not to accept a job offer, it's important for me that I've looked around for other job opportunities first. 76% agreed. If a recruiter or a friend proactively contacted me about a position, I would consider other positions as well. And 73% agreed. Now you think about these numbers for a minute. 3/4 of the candidates that you make outbound approaches to are going to start looking at other jobs simply because you approach them before considering an offer. The simple act of your approach is turning them into an active candidate. Next slide. Now if you take this a step further, candidates even think they'll be more successful if they actively look at the opportunities and find something that fits versus getting a job found through a recruiter or the headhunter. Next slide. So that's the psychology of job search. So to recap, career changes involve a stressful multi-step psychological process. Passive candidates have to go through all 7 steps from the moment you approach them, and that's an enormous psychological obstacle. Active candidates are ready for change. They've already completed steps 1 through 4. And lastly, candidates and people in general feel better when they're in charge of their own decisions. Next slide. So now we will talk about tactics that will determine your talent pipeline and the talent you're able to hire. Next slide. There have never been more ways to recruit talent than now. They have professional profiles, staffing firms, databases, job sites, etc. Next slide. Now fall into 2 basic categories. The first is inbound and the second is outbound. Next slide. Inbound candidates are the ones that come to you expressing interest in your company or a specific job in your company. In any specific situation, that will be finding a job that has been advertised on. Next slide. Candidates are the sure first, either through professional networking or via resume database. Next slide. As we mentioned earlier, most talent professionals are trying to fill positions inbound candidates. And think about it, it's easier, cheaper, and faster. But more importantly, it's likely to result in a hire. Next slide. Companies that fully measure the cost of hire item is to sequence your recruiting tactics to maximize quality, cost, and performance. So what does that mean? Next slide. Fill as many candidates with the free traffic that comes to you from your job postings that are on your career site, or those that come via free postings that you can make on sites like Indeed. You'll see that you'll be able to fill at least 20% of your roles through this method. However, the bulk of your roles will need advertising to drive applications back to them. Indeed's paid job advertising will drive you the kind of traffic that can help you fill in the bulk of these roles. If you want to know how this works and would like to know more, please leave your contact details and the name of your organization in the chat box and we'll get back to you with all details. Inevitably, there's going to be a set of really tough jobs to fill, and you might advertise up to 20% of your roles. If after advertising for that role, you're still not able to find a candidate, you might want to get into this tough job of outbound work, where you have to contact candidates and work through a lot of them to reach them. For most people, we say focus outbound efforts of jobs that are likely to be chronically unfit. So what does that mean? First, you want to take advantage of the free inbound tactics you have available. Once you've exhausted or tested those, move to your paid outbound inbound tactics, and if they're exhausted, and then spend some time with your outbound traffic. From an Indeed perspective, this should be starting with our organic listings, moving to a sponsored listing, and then tapping into a database. Next slide. Number 2, shape your candidate pipeline. You have amazing control over your talent, and there's 5 key levers. Next slide. The job titles you use, job descriptions, your career site, the apply process, and then of course the reviews of your company are the 5 levers. And we're going to talk through each of these. Now in this age of search, there are a lot of things you can't control. And indeed, we have hundreds of engineers constantly optimizing our search algorithm to bring the best and most relevant results to the job seeker. What you can control is your content, and what you control is quality. Quality title, quality description, and a quality apply process. A quality title will get the job seeker to click on your job. Here a client who was in the software industry and then advertised for a job that said software developer 2. But this title would have a very clear meaning for people within this company. The outside world would never understand what the 2 stood for. More importantly, no job seeker will be searching for jobs using software developer 2 as a keyword. They will look for senior software developer or software developer group. Using titles that are in line with what the industry definitions of the job are will mean that the job is displayed to the widest audience of relevant people when they're searching for jobs. A quality description will get quality candidates to apply for the position. Another company that we worked with was looking to hire more women as they wanted to increase diversity of their organization. They did not include the fact that they had crushes for their children, for their employees' children, and had flexible work hours in the job description. If they had, they would have got more relevant women applying to that position. Fine. The next one is the quality apply process. A pen-based application process is the high one. Get high quality work. And these boys are actually university. They're going to talk to each other. Next slide, please. The job description is one of the most difficult things. Job description needs to do other things at once, and now the first thing to do is to get the candidates to apply. There is a marketing document. They need to draw the right talent to your organization. In also the area, we take internal descriptions, internal checklists, and post them on our specifications without really factoring in how this appears to job seekers. So essentially, a quality description has to do 2 things with the era of search. It needs to cover right for organization. A quality description. Take a look at this Spotify. And these are the sort of work that perform within search. Front-end engineer, then team, coding, projects, web-based experience, UI/UX experience, etc. It's getting this combination right that you get your jobs in front of the right people. And then when they have you in front, it will draw them into applying to your jobs. Next slide. With 68% of the workforce using their mobile device to look for jobs, you should use language in your job description that makes it easy for candidates to browse and apply for jobs on mobile devices. Next slide. The next one is really important and it's a little complicated to read this table. But what you're looking here is the number of application questions as part of the apply process and the reduction in applications. What we find, not surprising, is the more questions you have, the fewer applicants you're getting. So, what is really important is that we need to keep the questions down to a level that it screens out the bad applications and screens in at the quality applicants that are coming. Next slide. Get a brand that brings talent to you. Next slide. Your brand determines your candidates. 83% of people say that reviews impact when they apply. 46% say company recognition is a big impact on the decision to accept a job. And we see at Indeed a 5% increase in apply rate when employer reviews are available. Those little star ratings that you find on Indeed, that's what I'm talking about. Indeed is now the world's largest source of reviews in the world. Next slide. Optimize the inbound and outbound candidate experience of talent. Next slide. This is very hard, but the standard that these organizations should hold themselves to is that your inbound process is so good that some great candidates would come to you and say, look, I'm interested in jobs in your company. You should be able to tell them, go through our recruitment process online because the process itself is slow. Next slide, please. One organization that's doing a great job on this is Airbnb. The internet company that does sharing of houses. They're recognizing the candidate experience based on overall. They did a storyboarding exercise that mapped out the candidate experience. That's what you see on the screen. They mapped the job seeker experience at every stage, end to end, and figured out what do we want job seekers to know. They said, what does rejection look like? What are the rejected candidates telling other people about Airbnb and this recruitment process? You can see, after having gone through the psychology of talent attraction, how important these steps could be. That was the fourth takeaway. The last takeaway I want to leave you with today is a little more nuanced. It's to build a platform for inbound recruiting. Again, if outbound recruiting is like sales, the inbound recruiting is much more like marketing. Next slide, please. This is where you're going to see a recruitment platform is a lot like marketing platforms. Think about it. The website and the landing page of a company is like a career site. Your apply is like a lead. Screening is similar to predictive scoring. Content marketing automation, which is how you engage your candidates using an ATS, is similar to marketing lead engagement automation, etc. Which includes labor costs as well. So to recap, sequence your recruitment tactics, shape your candidate pipeline, build a brand that brings talent to you, optimize candidate experience, build an inbound recruitment platform. And before I conclude, there's one step that I would like to walk you through. Whenever we've done this presentation, we've always asked, how do we know that we're getting this right? How do I know if the titles are good? How do I know if my job description is good? This is too long. Our answer always is, you must take on the role of job seeker and go through the process and evaluate. If you have marketing work you're hiring for, you can get go through the jobs, go through the application process and give you feedback. That is how you can get this right. Next slide. So what is the impact of getting great? What we see that companies are these 5 steps. 87% reduction in cost per hire. Next slide. Half the applicants required for the position. Targeted candidates are more than 8 times more likely to apply. Next slide. Faster access. Next slide.
you so much, Sashi, for sharing with all of us such an excellent piece of information. We have questions lined up for you right now. So here we are. Jyoti wants, Jyoti wants to ask you a question, which is called, what are some of the key skills that have now become a requisite for recruiters in the current age of business disruptions?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that right.
Yeah, sure. So the question goes, what are some of the key skills that have now become a requisite for recruiters in the current age of business disruptions?
So you're essentially looking for key skills that recruiters need to have in this world that there's a lot of disruption?
Yes.
Yeah. So one is the most important thing for recruiters to be able to understand the company they're working for, understand the kind of people that are successful in the company, and essentially look for those kind of people. And when I say kind of people that are successful, I'm mostly referring to the skills, the kind of education they have, and also the kind of softer skills that these successful people have. Being able to identify what are the success criteria for a job and looking for people that sort of match them is a good approach for a recruiter in this day.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the answer. We have another one coming up from Shweta. How can companies today make their talent acquisition processes more agile to meet changing business needs?
I think that's a good question, and this is something that we've been thinking about quite a lot. Companies need to relook at their complete processes, look at what is necessary. If you have a 15-page application process, look at that critically and figure out what is this information that is in the applications, which is absolutely necessary, what is good to have, and what is really not needed. Simplify the process. Make the candidates feel wanted when they're going through the recruitment process. Make it as simple as for people to apply. Always getting the right kind of information that you need. And then the recruitment process that is very job seeker friendly, helps them understand the company more as they go through the process. And finally, at the point of decision, the process should have been such that it is a decision to take up the job.
Thanks, Sashi. We have Nishant wants to ask, how can platforms like social media and mobile be leveraged today to reach out to the right talent that the company needs?
So I think mobile is a very, very important part of recruitment efforts today. We see at Indeed that close to 55% of our traffic comes via mobile device. So it's important for companies to ensure that they have mobile-friendly sites, jobs available in their site are readable on a mobile device. And finally, and most importantly, candidates should be able to apply using a mobile device. I think these are some things which companies can do and control to help leverage on the huge mobile users within India in their recruitment efforts.
Absolutely, I'm sure everyone would agree to that piece. Next one is from Sonali. What are some of the shifts within the talent demands that companies face today, and how can companies evolve their processes to map such shifts in a better way?
Could you please repeat that? I could hear that.
Sure. So what are some of the shifts within the talent demands that the companies are facing today, and how can companies, in fact, evolve their processes to map such shifts in a better way?
Primary shift is that, which we've seen in the last couple of years, is this thing with the top qualified people within India feeling that they're better off not working for anybody and starting something of their own. I think that's something which we've seen evolve in the last few years. That's one thing. How people can actually leverage this make the companies more entrepreneurial, let people, smart people that join them, feel that they can take decisions for themselves, let people know that it's not wrong to make mistakes, as long as the mistakes are not repeated time and time again. I think these are some of the things that companies can do to ensure that they're able to take advantage of the shifting nature of the jobs.
Rightly answered. Very rightly answered. We have here's one from Naina. What are the innovations that job boards are bringing to the table to aid recruiters in identifying and reaching out the right talent pool?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
Sure. Let me repeat it for you. What are the innovations that job boards are bringing to the table to aid recruiters in identifying and reaching out to the right talent pools?
So I can't speak for job boards, but I can speak for companies like Indeed, which is a job search engine. Our approach constantly has been that we should help people find jobs, and that is the value that we live by, and that is the value that each person, irrespective of what job he's doing within Indeed, is strong committed to. And we feel that when we do this, we also benefit the companies that use Indeed services. Because what's good for job seekers ultimately is the best thing for employers as well.
Thank you, Sashi. The next question is from Sonali again. What do you think are the triggering factors for high amount attrition in any company and how it can be minimized?
So there are many factors that affect attrition, and one factor which definitely affects high attrition or early attrition is the dichotomy what was shown to the candidate when he was interviewed versus what he actually finds himself into. So when you see a lot of people leaving early, I think this is the dichotomy which causes them to leave early. And there can be multiple other factors. I mean, it could be about pay, it could be about better location, etc. So that's what generally causes attrition. And so also about how people are made to feel and treated within an organization.
Right. Thank you, Sashi, for answering that. We have another one coming from Sonali. What are the best ways to build inbound recruiting platforms?
Okay.
What are the best ways to build inbound recruiting platforms?
Inbound recruiting platform is to click the sense that if you have a good website, have a great career site that provides companies with provides job seekers with an ability to read the jobs and apply in a clean and smooth process, to ensure that your site is mobile optimized so that it's searchable on mobile devices, ensure that your site and the jobs in your site are aggregatable on sites so that whenever people search for jobs on high volume traffic jobs aggregators like Indeed, your jobs come up and people can click on jobs and apply for them.
Right. Thank you for answering that. We have one from Akanksha. What are the common retention strategies used by certain companies?
What are common retention strategies?
Used by different companies.
So I really can't speak to that. I mean, my job takes to how people attract people within companies. Retention, I'm sure, will be something a different speaker in the forum can also talk to.
Sure. All right. So another one from Akanksha. What does millennial workforce look into while going on a job hunt?
What does the millennial workforce
look into while going on a job hunt?
So as I said, I mean, in the presentation, we were looking at the things that actually the house is today.
Right.
People look at flexibility of work, they look at pay, they look at location. These are the three biggest things that people look for, especially the younger workforce. Except for the fact that people are really at the beginning of their career, often for these ideas, what they look for what things that for themselves and the company culture, etc. Things that most job seekers today are looking for is work.
Right. Thank you, Sashi. We have one from Savita. Hello. Sorry for the interruption. We have another question from Diksha. What are the parameters for speeding up the recruitment process?
What are the parameters for cleaning up the
What are the parameters for speeding up the recruitment process?
So, I think taking a critical look at the entire recruitment process, looking back at similar to what Airbnb did in the example that we had in this presentation, figuring out why are we doing this? If I have 4 rounds of interviews, why do I have these 4 rounds? What is it that each of these people as much as possible so that the candidate has a great experience as he goes through. And most importantly, whether they're selected or not, let them know exactly where they stand as they stand in the interview process.
Thank you for answering that, Sashi. We have another one coming from Rahul. What does sequence recruiting broadly include?
What does sequence?
Yeah, what does sequence recruiting broadly include?
Sequence recruiting, okay. Right. So essentially sequence recruiting talks about sequencing a recruitment effort. You know that you've got quite a few jobs in your company. You first ensure that all of these jobs are available on your company website or are available as a public platform which is free like Indeed, our basic services in the sense, and see what kind of applications you can get in and how many people you can hire through them. And then move to a strategy where you're paying also indoor traffic, paying for people, advertising your jobs to be in front of people who really matching your skills and getting all those people who are interested in finally looking at outbound candidates. So what this does for you is this completely optimizes your recruit cost and efforts and as well as your cost per hire.
Thank you so much, Sashi, for that answering the last question. And with this, we end the Q&A session and we are going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, we'd like to thank today's webinar partner, Indeed. Also, a special thanks to our speaker, Sashi Kumar, for this webinar and indispensable information that they have shared with us today. And I'd like to thank everybody in the webinar audience for being so patient and for participating in today's presentation. We will come back to you with many such more webinar sessions, and that concludes today's webcast. Thank you and have a very good day.